Joining me now, Tennessee State Representative London Lamar and Jonathan Butcher, a fellow at the aforementioned Heritage Foundation. London, let's start with you. First, give us an idea of what Juneteenth means to you.
Juneteenth is a day of celebration where we commemorate all of those who were enslaved in the past of America. What it represents an official end to slavery when everyone in this country knew that they were free. It's a day of celebration, and it's a day that symbolically brings a lot of hope to many individuals in this country. But it's also opening the doors that we have so much further to go to ensure that this country is a place where everybody can live and thrive, and that we can look at what happened in our history so that we won't repeat it, and that people in this country can just live free, happy, and we can celebrate those small wins such as Juneteenth to bring recognition to the greater goal of ensuring that this country implements policy around equity and justice for all people.
Jonathan, had you been in Congress, would you have voted for this holiday?
Yes, I would have. I think that this is a day of celebration, and it represents what is special about America. It represents that ideas that conflict with the American creed, such as slavery, cannot long survive in this nation. And so it is something that we should be teaching to our children, that the American dream belongs to all of us. America is constantly striving to achieve its promise of equality for all under the law. So this is a great moment, and it represents who we are as a nation.
Your president linked the day, Jonathan, though, to the debate over critical race theory that we've been hearing. In your opinion, what's the connection?
Well, critical race theorists have argued that we should use discrimination to counter previous discrimination, and that discrimination itself is some sort of answer, and that by putting people into tribes and saying there's a competition for power, that is what this nation should be about, that there is a competition for who has power over our private and public structures. And the truth is that this is a moment to recognize that America had repaired itself. And look, we can understand and should affirm that there are people who should be upset over what happened all those years ago. Slavery and the Jim Crow era, they were a stain on America's past. We need to acknowledge that. But we also need to recognize that as a nation, we rejected discrimination. We rejected it in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Civil Rights Movement. And we should reject it today. And that's what the holiday marks.
But that isn't what you're rejecting with critical race theory, as I understand it anyway. This is something the Republican Party has pushed to silence. Is this not, London, let me give you the first crack at this, more an issue of history than it is about race?
What it is trying to make us forget that race is one of the things that built the system that we call America, and that our country was founded, unfortunately, on many of the principles of racism. Now, I serve in a state where we were one of the first states to actually pass a bill banning critical race theory in Tennessee. And even during the debate, they were inaccurate about how we tell some of the things that happen in America. And so, which gave light to the fact of why we need to continue to teach systems and information to students that recognize the true history of America, not to demonize one group or over another, but to also bring light of how we can make this system better. At the end of the day, the system of America was created based on ensuring that whites had more power than blacks, economically, freedom-wise, healthcare-wise, and the education system. We have come a long way to try to close those systems that ensured that one group was benefiting over the other. Now, many of those principles that created that system are still in place, which is why the African-American community is still more disadvantaged than most populations in this country, with lower rates of college graduation, with higher rates of poverty, with lower rates of access to healthcare. We have less access to jobs, well-paying jobs that pay a fair and living wages that will get families out of poverty. And so with these statistics, we can say there is evidence to show that we have to make this system so that all communities are able to have good homes, have equal access to jobs, have equal access to adequate education. Right. And if we talk about those issues, we can move forward, but banning it is not the solution.
London, you hit on some of the statistics that we looked up today. And Jonathan, I want to share some of these with you and get your comments on these. We talk about life expectancy, household wealth, also household income. We're going to show some of these as I ask you to let the viewers debate why this is. But do you acknowledge at least that this is the result of inequities that may not be overt but are real nonetheless?
Well, again, there were systems in the past that were systemically racist and that were biased. But again, in 1964, with the Civil Rights Act, the government acknowledged that racial discrimination has no place in the United States. And the civil rights movement brought us culturally to a place where we won't accept that and shouldn't ever accept it. What we should be doing with Juneteenth and with this recognition that America is a place of opportunity is informing our students that this generation's job is to preserve that legacy of opportunity that was started by our founders. They were the ones who, in the Civil War, right, gave their lives to make it possible for the Emancipation Proclamation, and then to carry out what we see today. To say that there are individual acts of racism is true, and we should condemn those. But that is very different from saying that the nation is systemically racist. That was abolished in the Civil Rights Act. That was abolished years ago. Again, these children, this generation, must understand what the nation is built on, and that is the opportunity for everyone to achieve the American dream. It belongs to all of us.
And the history of where we came. London, final thoughts. We have to go.
Yeah, I would challenge the conservative part of government and individuals in our Republican Party that if they truly think this is a country that is not predicated on racism anymore, when you see those facts that were just on that screen, make sure when it's time to allocate funding and resources so that those communities more disadvantaged can catch up and have equal access and take advantage of this system just like everyone else. Then when it's time for us to do that, I expect them to support leaders who believe in investing in those communities so that all people can say they have equal access to great education of medium, high family income and wealth. So let's put our money where our mouth is.
Well, tonight we celebrate Juneteenth and we celebrate freedom as well. We thank you both, Jonathan Butcher of the Heritage Foundation and London Lamar, State Representative from Tennessee. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.